Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to talk about something really unusual that I saw on Grace Randolph's Beyond the Trailer, which was a community member reaching out with a question and Grace answering that question to the best of her knowledge, and how the question came to her and how much courage she displayed in answering the question and how she talked about the community, right? So let's get into, and then I want to talk about it in context to you and I as a dungeon master, the questions we get, right? The situations we see, and what we're actually called to, right? Or what we choose to be called to, right? So let's get into this conversation. I appreciate your patience. It's an unusual subject, but it's on my heart, and I just wanted to talk to you as fellow dungeon masters about it. And by the way, this is my only audience for this. This is only directed at United States of America dungeon masters, because I think American Dungeons and Dragons is a unique thing, and I agree with Ben from Questing Beast last year when he said the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition dungeon master, he said this at the end of 2022, he said is expected to know the rules backwards and forwards, to tell an epic story, and to be a life coach. Right? Like, that's an astounding, a statement, but he said it, and I think he's right. I think that is the expectation, and it's why, and I think it's the reason why there is a massive shortage of Dungeons and Dragons dungeon masters, right? So let's get into this. All right, so Grace Randolph, she's the best movie reviewer on the planet. She has close to 1 million subscribers, and she does a live show like 3 times a week, right? It's an hour long, and it has completely transformed her, her channel. And the reason why is, especially when we went through the actor strike, because she talked a lot about herself, and she was extremely open and extremely transparent, because she would talk literally 3 hours a week and just do Ask Me Anythings, and she would do AMAs at the end of almost all of these live streams. So people got to really know her, and she got to know her audience. So so basically, one of the community members, this was very recently, asked in there, she said, "Hey, Grace, what do I do about Hollywood? What do I do about holiday? Excuse me. What do I do about holiday depression?" Like, and immediately Grace was like, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. Like, Christmas can be a really hard, like, it's really joyous for many people, but it can be a very hard time for many people." She said, "I know exactly what that is," right? And I'm paraphrasing here. You're welcome to go, check out exactly what she said, but I think this is a good capturing of it. And then there was a hesitancy, right? She had this hesitancy, and I think so you could tell she was hesitant to answer this question, right? And you could tell she was thinking, what do I answer here? And what astounded me was she then gave a list of tips on how to avoid holiday depression. I was astounded. I was like, what? Wait, what? You're a movie reviewer. You're telling people how to avoid holiday depression, right? Like, I was astounded that she answered the question, that she gave the tips that she thought were helpful to avoid holiday depression, right? So she gave, I think, like 2, 3, maybe 4 tips for avoiding holiday depression. And then at the end, again, it was just like astounding on top of astounding. And then after that, you know what she said? She said, it blew me away. Like, after that, she said, and don't forget, you have the Beyond the Trailer community, right? And her channel is called Beyond the Trailer. Grace Randolph's channel is called Beyond It. And so she was saying, hey, we're gonna be here. I'm gonna review movies, and you're gonna go see the movies I review, and I'll see you in the comments. And trust and believe, I cannot believe this. Someone's got close to 1 million subs. I've had at least a half a dozen to a dozen responses from her. It is truly astounding, right? Like, She genuinely cares for her community and works like she works so hard. It's hard for me to even say what she works like, because she works incredibly hard, right? And I can't believe that she's liked tweets that I've sent her. She and she's responded in comments, which I'm absolutely astounded that she has the time to do that. But she makes the time. That's the thing. She lives for it, man. She is, man. Grace Randolph, she is on the grind, baby. Like, she works hard. She is really, and that's why she's the best movie reviewer on the planet, right? Like, and I have to say, she's a personal hero to me. And if you see this little channel of mine, I don't have a million subs, but but my North Star is Grace Randolph, and I'm trying to follow her and do and honestly, I think I've been, she is the sun and I am a flashlight, right? Like, it is, I think that's the correct understanding of it, right? So, but what really blew me away was, I was like, why did that person ask that question to Grace? And the moment I asked it to myself, I knew the answer. It's two things. One, I think they said, I used to say this, this is my old answer, and I'll tell you my new answer. My old answer was, I don't have $200 an hour to talk to a psychologist. That's a cop-out. It's not the real answer. I'll give you the real answer today. The real answer is, I think that person knew. If I had $200 to go to a psychologist, they would ask a question. I would ask them a question, and they would answer my question with a question. And we'd end up talking about my mother, and I'd walk out the door with no answers, no solace, and no solutions, right? They won't give me what I pay for, but Grace Randolph will answer the question for nothing, for $0, and give me actual aid. I think that's why that person answered that question. I think that's why that commenter asked that question in the comments, right? And it truly astounding, right? And so I think, so what does that mean for you and me as Dungeon Masters? Well, here's the thing, right? I think psychology has failed America so brutally and made it clear that the only people they're even remotely interested in helping are stars who will not pay $200 an hour, but $500 to $1,000 an hour, right? And who will really hire them on as personal nannies, like for an adult. And I've listened to a lot of autobiographies, and they're almost all the same. Like, a lot of these Hollywood types just hire a psychologist who is with them 3, 4, 5 times a week, right? And like really make them their lives, right? And the reality is, what's super sad is, like, a good example would be like Anna Akana. Anna Akana has dedicated her life to listening to her therapist, and then writing down what her therapist told her, and then doing videos telling you what her told her. But I think and that is incredibly helpful. You want to know why? Anna Akana, I've listened to her for years, and she's like, I want to love someone and I want to be loved, right? She's been going to a therapist for like 5 years, trying to learn how to do that, and to this day continues to fail at it. Never finds someone to love her. And Anna Akana is not like, she is a conventionally attractive human being, right? Anna Akana should not have any problems finding someone who would love them that they could love. And yet, with incredible amount of work done with therapists and psychologists, she continues to fail, right? Like, by her own words, like, just watch her channel, right? She's been going for years and learned nothing, right? Like, she's learned a bunch of things. That's wrong. It's not that she learned a bunch of things, hundreds of things that did not work and were not worth $1 she spent, in my opinion, right? And so the reality is, no one should be coming to a dungeon master as a life coach, right? There should be a better solution, but there isn't. There isn't. That's where we've arrived, right? And I do believe, right, that when we arrive at the Dungeons and Dragons table, right, there are people who I could tell you right now, this is not me wondering, right? Literally 2 weeks ago, 3 of my friends reported to me, right? They said, we're all sitting, we all come in for our Dungeons and Dragons game, right? And XYZ person comes in and was frustrated from their day of work. We get into it. One of the player characters drops. We all know we're a few centimeters away from a TPK. The guy got up from the table and walked outside. Was so strained and so stressed, and the bleed from his troubles in life were right there at the table. Dungeon Master, because and you know what? Dungeon Master kept dungeon mastering. Did not stop. And the reason why was there were 5 people at the table, right? 4 of them had given up time, had planned, and were there for the narrative. But 3 of the people continued. 1 of the people walked outside and talked that person down, got them settled, brought them back to the table, and they just sat at the table. Player character was shuffled off into exit right, but it's happening. It is happening. It is happening. We are in a massive American crisis right now. People are under incredible strain because eggs are $11 a carton. $11 a carton, right? People are worried about if they're going to be able to put gas in their car, if they're going to be able to buy milk, right? And the strain is intense, right? So when we come to the Dungeons and Dragons table, we don't know what question they're going to ask. They may ask a deeply profound question, and for us, it's not even as simple as the question Grace got, right? The question could come directly from the person at the table, or it could come through their player character. And we need to recognize when there is a genuine human request for aid, and whether it's coming out of their literal voice or their second identity, which we have crafted with them, right? Or maybe their 10th identity, because they're in so many campaigns, right? Or because they haven't been able to let go of characters that the campaign stopped, but them living in those identities they never did, right? And what I'm saying is yes, I admit it, I understand there are people out there who all their games ever reach, right, is I cut the goblin in half, and nobody at the table cares, and there is nothing, there's no subtext. There are some tables where the question can come because the dungeon master is trusted more than professionals who will not allow regular middle class Americans to be aided by them, right? And so no dungeon master should be in this position, but to continue to pretend that we are not getting people with genuine requests for real aid with real personal issues is absurd. Because at this point, Americans are reaching out and getting answers to extremely personal questions from movie reviewers, right? And if you think we're exempt, right, I can tell you right now, what we do is 100 times more personal than what Grace does. We were handed an identity engine from the smartest American since Harriet Tubman, Gary Gygax. He built an identity engine, and we are called by him from his grave to build the strongest, most personal, most beautiful narratives anyone has ever seen. And the stories told at our table dwarf the content they find on any streamer, right? The content they find in a video game. We are on the front lines of American identity. And to pretend that while movie reviewers are being asked incredibly personal questions and are having the courage to answer them and to aid, what is the D&D community going to do? are we going to say no? Movie reviewers have the heart to hate, the willingness to hate, but dungeon masters don't. Leave the table with nothing. You get nothing. I'm not going to do that. You can. You know why? Because every single word you just heard is nothing more and nothing less than my humble opinion. But the most important thing that's going to happen is when I hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.